All right. We have a good list of speakers out here. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence. But before we get in there, I think artificial intelligence is a little bit like elephant and blind man. You've got everybody looking at it and has their own view on what artificial intelligence is. So what we thought we'll start is getting a perspective from the panel in terms of what they think artificial intelligence is from their perspective, and then we'll delve a little bit deeper and we'll go into some of the intricacies of what does it take to make artificial intelligence work in your organization.
Nice name చేయలేము
With that,
ఇది క్లియర్ ఉందా ఇది క్లియర్ ఉందా ఇది క్లియర్ ఉందా
so let's start with
ఇలా
Prithvi.
క్లియర్ ఉందా వస్తుందా
What's your view on artificial intelligence?
So thank you very much, and hope you guys had as good a lunch as I did. I think the way I look at it, I was trying to sort of think through what is the journey that really happens as we try to augment the insight that we have as we make decisions. And I look at it as a multi-stage journey. And I think there are multiple questions that one answers. And as you start answering them, you start augmenting intelligence and you start using artificial intelligence a bit more and more. I think the first question that technology helps us answer is really what is happening right now. And I think we have today the ability to pull data from various sources into a data lake or into a data warehouse and sort of be much more smarter about how that is visualized and understood. I think the next question that we need to answer is, what do I need to know? What are some of the things that the patterns throw out as variances that we immediately need to sort of think through? And again, this is where pattern recognition, machine learning sort of kicks in and helps us answer that. The next question is really, what do I recommend you do? And that's really where what the machine has learned from the past kicks in and helps us see what should I be doing about what could be happening today. I think the last couple of things that which are really, you are at a much more mature stage, is when you can predict what is going to happen. What can I expect to happen?
Oh, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gilbert, and I'm joining Sherm from the Philippines. So glad to meet everyone. So from my perspective, being in HR, it's always a resource, enabling resource to make cost efficiency, work for an organization to deliver, say, organization's promise to its customer. And bottom line is, with this digital economy, with all the disruptions that are happening, I think it's what we can add value to the table to make a better solutioning to any customer expectation. And this sets the organization to develop further its comparative and its competitive advantage over other organizations. So if you're not tech up at all, your organization, the question is, where are you and what's happening with your organization? Because it's something I think that's currently innate at this time. So that for me is AI.
Excellent. Krishna?
Thanks, Aditya. So for me, AI is new IT. The way IT became part of our life, whatever role you are, whatever industry you are, you're using some form of information technology in one way or other. I think of AI as the next version of that same technology that is going to make whatever we are doing faster, better and cheaper. So whether we like it or not, our lives are already getting impacted by AI, and I already see this going up and up as we go in future.
Okay, I'm going to keep it simple. For me, at the higher end is where it's like your autopilot car, where you use data, but you have to make decisions which are reasonably difficult to make on the, using the data. And at the lower end, you have your bots, which are, kind of just response to simple kind of things. So basically, it's about using data at the highest end to make slightly difficult decisions, which mimics what a human being can do. And at the lower end, it's about being able to respond to queries and things like that.
Okay, I in summary, what we heard, if we were to put it in a little bit of a context, AI has a spectrum. So AI at one end of the spectrum is simple robotics, automation, as Sriram talked about. Then you have the next space, which is about intelligence. It's about cognitive intelligence, with the bit that Prithvi spoke about, where it's learning and evolving and it's getting better as it goes on and starts suggesting and prescribing what you should do. And on the final end of the spectrum, it's about cognitive engagement. It's about how you start engaging. You're already starting to see some bit of engagement where a car is engaging with the road directly and taking lots of inputs and taking decisions on that. So AI has it's a bit of a continuum, and it passes across this entire space. Now, all this is good, all this is great, right? So we know about AI now. Everybody knows about AI now. What does it mean for us? As an HR practitioner, one of the things that I worry about is saying everybody, including the guy who kind of works the coffee machine, is talking about AI, and he talks about his coffee machine being AI now. What do we need to think about from a user, from an organization, to prepare ourselves to get AI into our organizations? Krishna, why don't you start?
Yeah. So Aditya, that's a great question. I think when we think of organizations talking about AI, I think first it starts with some kind of negative connotation that, okay, AI is being implemented, are we going to lose jobs, are we going to do massive layoff? But I think those progressive organizations which are implementing AI, they are doing it so that they can use the best practices, they can use technology to their advantage so that they are more competitive and they can serve their customers better, they can develop better products. So I think the first thing that HR should do is to give that comfort to their employees, that the aim is that you become better in what you are doing. The aim is not to replace you with technology. Because as humans, as AI is becoming more and more mainstream, I think we need to learn to coexist with machine. So in future, most of the roles will have some kind of AI impacting their work, and we need to learn how can we do something on top of what AI can't do to remain employed in the organization. So I think the HR's biggest role is going to be giving that comfort that you are not going to lose jobs. We will do something about you. Relax and make it part of your role.
Gilbert, what about you?
So, like what the resource speaker this morning said, we're in a period of orbit shift. So, if AI was a part of the workforce or the workplace, my question basically is, sure, I'm considering it a part of the workforce, in fact. Because if AI thinks the same thing, asks the same thing, makes decision out of any of the resources, like in my case, so I work with a company that's recruitment. The recruitment operations in my company has been AI'd already. So we've gone to revolution. 60 to 70% of our job is more efficient this time. Talk about efficiency, there is solution for coming from AI. From a cost perspective, I need not hire additional HR just to address that perspective. But the problem, and go back to the orbit shift, is that the embrace and the taking risk of anyone to let go of something that we've been very accustomed to, especially in our country, Philippines, right? So, and rest of the Southeast Asia. It's something, so I went to Indonesia and talked about AI. They were all amazed. They were all out with wow, this is so helpful. But the point of embracing it, the point of adapting to it, the point of integrating it is something big that threatens any individual's presence.
So I think that's an important component of getting people familiar with it. Prithvi, I'm going to be a little bit more specific out here with you. What are the skills that we need to think about as we are kind of thinking about AI from an organizational perspective? Right. So as leaders, how do I prepare myself from a skill and talent perspective to get AI into my organization?
So I think the first thing that I think we need to look in the mirror and ask is, do we have enough courage? And I think some of the comments we just heard, address that. Because I think human behavior is motivated only with two things. One is fear, and I'll talk about the second one in a minute. To address that fear, we need courage. And I think that word can come if you have many things. You need to have the capability to understand technology, you have to have the adaptability, you have to have a quantitative bent of mind. If you bring those skills in, you will demonstrate courage and address that fear. I think the second thing that HR needs to sort of drives behavior is greed. Greed. And I think HR leaders need to be motivated by that how can we add more value? If I add more value, how can I get more returns for my team, more budgets for my team, and for that, one needs to have an outcome orientation. So I actually answer that question in a little different way. I think one needs to understand what are the two things that really drive behavior change, which in my theory is fear and greed. And what are the two things that you need to have to be able to sort of deliver that? And that is really courage and an outcome orientation or a value orientation. Behind those big words like value orientation and courage, there are lots of things that kick in, which I think we all are on a different stage on. It could be an understanding of tech, it could be an understanding about quantitative methods, it could be an ability to seek out new ways of thinking, it could be a diversity of ideas. I think these are all skills that HR people, I think, are at very different stages. Some of us are a little behind, some of us are a little ahead, and we all need to work on that.
Sriram, why don't you give me a cultural view on how does an organization prepare itself?
See, I think the dilemma with AI is that, say you want to hire somebody. Now AI says hire, and your gut instinct says don't hire. Okay, what's the gap? Okay, the gap is with the data that went into the programming of the AI, and the gap typically arises with sensitivities, which are very difficult to kind of come up with, and that's really the challenge that we're going to have. This is going to come. Your bots are already there. The other stuff is going to come. Predictability is mostly there. So you're going up the value chain. But when you go up the value chain, you are going to hit places of difficulty, which is in terms of decision making around moral decisions, value decisions, sensitivities based on culture. And I think those are really the places where the more more input that we give with respect to cultural sensitivity. And today it's a human challenge. Working with a US company, there's a cultural challenge even today, without the machine. Now you bring in a machine and then you expect things to happen, it's going to become that much more difficult. And that's where it's going to hit a challenge level, because those are not going to be that easy to replicate.
I think this is such an amazing point, right? Today we have cultural challenges within each other. And suddenly you have add a third element where all emotions are devoid and you're having a conversation. How do you fire a bot? How do you hire a bot? How do you pay a bot who's doing really well compared to everybody else? These are some really big questions that you're going to have. How do you deal with responsibility? Today, let's say when somebody does a mistake, there's a consequence to that mistake. If a bot does a mistake, or if a machine does a mistake, and I'm not talking about the Terminator type of a mistake, you can't do much about that, but if it does a mistake, what do you do next? Do you fire the machine? Do you take a sledgehammer? So how many of us out here in this room or this broad arena are HR professionals? We're close to about 70% of the group. So we have a question. We have one quiz, not a quiz. It's a poll question, and I'd request it to get deployed. The question is broadly around: how soon do you think AI will become mainstream in the HR function? So do respond to that question. It's on your app, and we'd love to hear some of the insight coming out of it. Now moving on, mainstream applications of AI. From an HR perspective, what are the mainstream applications that you're seeing? Gilbert, why don't we kind of get a view from you, and then we'll do a very quick round robin on this.
So we've valued the AI again on ensuring that there's efficiency, there's delivery, hitting all the metrics that we've kept to ensure that the operations will actually yield to a better result. So in other words, we've always associated the implementation of AI to the bottom line. How is that impacting us in a very good manner so that every individual that's interfacing with artificial intelligence are rewarded. There's an equivalent points which we're actually using a gamified employee engagement, which whenever they use AI, we actually encourage them over the fear of them not to use it, but the fear of being rewarded for a great job using artificial intelligence. I'll say at the start, it's going to be a push for people to not use it. Eventually, when they get used to it, they'll embrace. So it has been very helpful so far in the way we've been using artificial intelligence in driving business excellence in our organization.
Thanks. I want to tell you this story. We implemented a tool. It's called Amber at my organization. And what was really funny is we started getting these personal requests from employees asking this virtual bot, saying, "Can I meet up with you? I want to talk to you about something specifically. Please let me know where do you sit," and things like that. And this is the interesting part, right? We're reaching a space today where it's going to get progressively harder for us to make out the difference between a human and a bot in terms of engagement. Krishna, why don't you give me?
So I think, as I was saying earlier, that AI is impacting everything, including all the aspects of HR. So we talked about engagement part, where a virtual assistant like Amber are being used. Recruiting is already, a lot of AI is being used in matching resumes, doing interview automation, recommending whether to hire, not to hire. In learning, we at Simply Learn, we use a lot of AI in figuring it out what kind of learning course will be suitable for what kind of audience, who did a course, and how is your profile similar to the other person who did the course, and recommend courses which are suitable for you, recommending duration that are suitable for you. So a lot of learning personalization is happening with the help of AI. So I see this impacting everything, not only HR, but all aspects of our life.
Sorry, Prithvi?
So last year we did a survey, and we found that there were close to 1,100 active HR tech companies in the country. There were actually about 1,600, but I would say about 500 of them were not necessarily as active as they would have liked to be, largely because of fundraising issues or financial issues. Out of the 1,100 companies, I think 60 to 70% of them said that they were using AI. But when you dig in, you really find that most of them are saying that basically to enhance valuation. So, my theory is that across 70-80% of recruiting, which is where you see a large portion of HR tech companies, you're seeing the most application of pattern recognition, machine learning, natural language processing. You're seeing a lot of activity there. I think we've curated some companies in the career, performance, learning space, which you can come to our stall and see, just to do a plug. You will see who are actually trying to do something in that space. But, I would advise everybody to approach this with a lot of skepticism across the value chain of HR as to who's truly using methods and tools of which drive technology and which are not. I still think it's early days, but I think everybody knows that that's where the money is, and that's where they're going to make the investment, so that what they're building turns out to be of high value.
So Prithvi will add to it that you said that most of the startups are saying that they are using AI in some way. See, my feeling is that 2-3 years down the line, nobody will claim that. It is understood that they are using. If you're not using it, then what product are you building? It will become so powerful.
Good point.
Quickly, in terms of dimensions of HR, I think recruitment is probably the highest space, especially in India. Attrition, there's a lot of attrition predictability, which is still, I wouldn't say perfect, but maybe about 50% hit rate on that. But I think the space where we can do more is around the personalization, which is to do with learning, performance, all of that. There is a lot more potential, for AI to actually play a bigger role, which I don't think is happening right now. But I think the opportunity is there.
All right. right? We are talking about future of work, and we are talking about what does it mean. How many of you have heard the term singularity? Singularity is an often coined term, which is about where machines get smarter than humans, right? And we are far away from that. My coffee machine with all of the intelligence can't get coffee consistently right. So we will wait for that one. But I want us to kind of take a little bit of a mind's eye view of the future, crystal ball gaze in the future, and get a sense from this panel in terms of what is the future of work as AI becomes more prominent in our day-to-day. Of course, we kind of touched about human-machine interaction, but what do you see as the future of work?
Yes, if I have to start, I think if somebody can guess what is future of work, you can build large companies that become the richest person in the world. So all of us are only guessing, and our guess is as good as anybody else guess. But I want to tell you one incident. So I was telling my son that he was spending too much time playing basketball. Kuch padhai bhi kar lo. And his response was like, Dad, I am playing basketball, so robots can't play that. So what I'm doing is right. So that is the impact and the media buzz that has got created around how AI and robotics are going to take away everyone's life. If I have to guess, I think my guess is that anything that requires empathy, anything that requires a lot of creative thinking, will be very difficult for a machine to simulate that. Like simple things like how you would do a handshake, and there are two people can do the same handshake, but it passes two different messages to the person on the other side, right? So these things are very, very difficult to automate, and I think future of work will be like doing more and more creative things, and we might also get to a scenario where there is actually no work. And you can just sit at home and relax. All the governments will pay money for people to be at home and do what they really like.
Okay, I think not going very far into the future, into an immediate future kind of a thing, there are a few things which are emerging, right? One is a multi-generational workforce. There is a virtual working that's going to kind of happen. So these are all, kind of more immediate realities. But for me, I think one thing is very clear, that a lot of the operational tasks will go away. And the challenge for HR is, are we now, if say 40% of what we're doing now goes away, are we ready to do the value add part for that 40%? Do we really know what to do to replace that 40% in terms of value adding? Often we preach saying that, we want to value add, we want to do this and we want to do that. But if it actually goes away, are we ready to value add? Do we know what to do? I think we are still hazy on that.
Well, for me, it's simple. The future of work would actually be when we're all comfortable to use data. And data is so big, right? So whenever we're ready to analyze data, whenever we're ready to use and understand data, whenever we need to understand from a perspective of human to interacting and having that integrated to an artificial intelligence, future of work becomes what Sherm says, a better workplace and a better world because everyone's comfortable with it. We need to accept the fact that technology is a tool which should enable every HR, and that HR should be again a leverage to make sure that it comes from us in developing individuals that are ready to interface with technology, having to solve and understand data. In the Philippines, it's big, and for HR technology companies who'd like to journey and experience and present your platform, this is much welcome. People are so hungry, and we admire all the Indian companies that have been forerunners. Though we understand that we remain to be the voice capital of the world, a lot of the HR in the Philippines would love to adapt to and learn what it is and what have you guys journeyed in terms of data management and data analytics, and carry and move that forward to becoming more than just a business partner, but a line manager for the business organization.
I think I'm going to throw two or three data points, right? 2014, we had more mobile phones than humans. Today in India, average consumption of data is about 8 GB a month, right? We have 400 million users today. So the data, I don't think the challenge is going to be data. I think the data is going to go exponentially. It's growing exponentially. I think the big challenge is going to be how do you use the data and get something out of it. And Prithvi, again, future of work.
So I think the HR acronym will define it. I think results will be all influenced by technology. And I think the age which I think stands for heart will really be the place where we will need to play a much more active role. I think today what has happened in HR as a profession is we've all become focused on a four-letter word which starts with C, cost. And if that seems to preoccupy the profession. I think a lot of those issues, and I think somebody said about the impact of technology on that, I think those results will all be driven in some form or shape by technology, whether it's a sales guy's job or a manufacturing job or an HR job. I think where people and HR as a profession will have to play a much more active role is really bringing the heart and the meaning of work back into the workplace as to why are we doing what we are doing, who does it benefit, how does it benefit me. Those conversations which I think today are becoming as a percentage much smaller than they need to be for an HR professional will come back into fashion and really be what the future of our work really needs to become.
Thank you. I think as I look at the progression that's happening with a lot more technology, faster processors, better connectivity, a lot more data around, we will reach a stage where we have an amazing opportunity for being incredibly connected, yet individualized, right? I think that's going to be a big opportunity. Prithvi talked about H4 being hard. I think it's how do you individualize? How would you make sure that the individual experience is outstanding? And I somehow feel that within the HR fraternity, we've just got lost in averages and numbers somewhere. We are spending too much time on processes, and hopefully with technology coming in, that's going to significantly get curtailed, and the focus comes back to the individual. So that's going to be the heart of it, and that's how I see it in the future, and I think the panel also has a similar view. Now, that's it from us today. Let's open it up for any questions that you may have for the panel. Guys, can we have a mic out here?
It's okay. Hi, my name is Charu. I'm from Deloitte. I'm closely monitoring this technology space, particularly AI, because of my research interest. So, we have been hearing this term future of work like forever. And honestly, I think now is the future of work. Like, I don't know what we're waiting for. And it's not even about whether we should have AI or not. It's just about when we have AI. So, we have the technology. Like, there is this very famous graph where you see the technology line being the highest and then catches up the organization and then the government and then the laws and So obviously there's a huge gap and there's a huge opportunity between the two. So my question is that, is this really a question of implementing AI, or is it like a cultural shift like you mentioned initially, or a mindset shift? Like, is there a fear that is holding us back from really using bots or AI overall, which by the way is also very loosely mentioned. Like,
so Charu, is there a question coming in?
Yes, there's a question. Like, do you think it is a question of implementing technology, or is it a question of really having a mindset shift to be able to accept AI? Do you think there is reluctance in acceptance of AI, especially in leaders?
Okay, I think you've got a mic. Go for it.
So I think it's much simpler. It's an issue of budget and authority. So I think any HR guy will tell you, do you want to implement technology? Nobody's going to turn around to you and say, no, I don't want to implement technology. I want to do things paper and pencil because, hey, that's the right way to do it. Nobody's going to say that. When you ask the next question, do you have the money to do it? Do you have the authority to make the decision to implement technology? That's where the rubber hits the road, and that's where the answer is no. I don't have the budget, or I don't have the authority to make this decision. I have to talk to my CTO, I have to talk to my CIO, and you're in for a 6 to 9 month conversation. And by that time, marketing has gone ahead, finance has gone ahead, sales has gone ahead, everybody has implemented technology, because they can show the return on investment much more directly to revenue, while all we tend to show is to cost. So unless we start demonstrating that our investments in technology will really impact growth, and unless that comes into the conversation, we will always be lower in the priority list from implementing technology. So is it a mindset shift? Is it an implementation issue? I think those are higher order conversations. I think the issue is very simple. Do you have the money, and can you make a decision? I think that's what is the real issue in that.
So my perspective here is that there is no option. So if you look at the average life of a Fortune 500 company has reduced from being 75 years to 15 years. In next few years, it is going to be 5 years. So if some company struggles to internally justify whether should we use AI, should we use more technology, because there are bureaucratic setups that requires approval and going from to the CEO, I think the new entrants will come and completely take the carpet away from them. So there is no option. If you don't do it, you'll perish. As simple as that.
You know, I'm going to tell you a really nice anecdotal story. I met a bunch of management trainees and we were having a conversation, and one girl actually said, you know, Aditya, working in this organization has been an amazing experience, and she's been with the company about a week. So I said, why do you say that? She said, it's like time travel. Tell me more. She said, when I go home, I have this amazing technology. I have Apple TV, I have my Netflix out here, I have my Mac, I have connectivity, Facebook, all of this good stuff out here. And then I come to work and then I interact with this dumb thing. It's almost like time travel. So I tend to agree. I think it's going to be a tsunami that's going to come the other way. And if the organization doesn't have the courage to be able to put its money where its mouth is, it's going to impact very differently. All right, any other questions from the audience?
Okay, so I just want to add on to that question. Do you think that its culture could be, it takes time to change that, but do you think it's a skill issue within the HR? Because we still think HR is the kind of people we hire in HR, we work in HR, more human oriented, they really are not that compatible with the technology. And so do you see that skill issue and compatibility with the technology which is coming in and changing very fast?
Well, to answer the both questions, actually, for me, it's really the future of work is now. It's today. It's not like bound to happen. It's today. Technology is part of us, we just need to embrace, as I said. But I think where the challenge is the organization readiness. So you talk about organization's readiness. You talk about leadership perspective of, so should we enable our processes to AI? What do we do with the resources? If these resources are impacted, do we trust that AI will actually deliver the same? An example of which, if my organization is delivering 100%, and if I need to disrupt my operations by integrating a technology, an AI, will that be something that will assure me to hit my bottom line to be more than 100%? And most of the time, CEOs and CHROs, when they talk together, I still feel that CHRO need to have a bolder stand in terms of readiness of the team to adapt to a technology where I could bravely say to my CEO, my head is ready on the table being cut if I'm not able to make this run. Because it's good to hear from outside, to have a technology. The question is the team in charge of transitioning human-able to technology-abled human will make it happen for the organization to progress. And this is where SHRM's concept of us being business leader over being business partner or even service delivery operators. This is where we take the bold stand of going to the CEO, to the board and say, I will make this happen, just trust me. But make sure that your AI will really deliver. Bottom line is, before you even apply AI, see whether that's the right tool, in fact, to disrupt your entire organization. That's where most of the companies, at least in our country, that would say, how do you trust which companies have used this? If this hasn't been used by any company, then I doubt and I'm worried that I might lose my job as a CHRO. That's a question that I always ask everyone.
Just to bring that to life, we worked with a client who was making a case for tech, and the CHRO was making a case for $1.5 million of saving, and the CEO threw him out of the room 4 times. So we helped that person move that number up to 10 million. That's when he got approval. The only way you can do that is if you are sure that you're going to deliver it. So I think it becomes very important to work on your business case and be very sure that your number makes the CEO sit up and have interest. If you're going to go and tell him, I'm going to implement something worth $500,000, I'm going to give you a return of 1 million, it's not worth the change, the pain of change that the CEO is going to feel in the organization for that kind of return. He's looking for much more aggressive courage and boldness to actually deliver.
Thank you. Thank you for being a really nice audience. We are done with the session. Thank you everyone. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much for this is a great session.